the feast of Christ the King, and the 34th Sunday of Ordinary Time, the last Sunday of the liturgical year. The readings today are a juxtaposition, a contrasting picture. David is celebrated and cheered and anointed king of Israel. Israel was divided at that time, kingdoms, Judah and Israel, and they come and say, you can unite us. And so he does, and so militarily he restores Jerusalem, taking it back from their enemies, reestablishing the ark. David is quite the king, and always remembered with Abraham, Moses, and David as the great people of Israel, protecting the people. The gospel, on the contrary, is instead of being cheering, there's jeering. The Romans and the Jewish leaders say, now we've got you where we've wanted you. You are such an insult to us in our ways, and you are threatening the kingdom of Rome. We've got you right there at the point of death. Not exactly a kingly position, except if you read the second reading for today's liturgy, and not just read it, but pray with it, from the first chapter of Colossians. It's a great celebration of the person and the dominion, the power. What is Jesus about? So it's almost, in order to understand the gospel, you really have to read and listen to that second reading. But there is Jesus, in Luke's gospel, between two criminals. And as you know, in Luke's gospel, it's a great theme of lost and found. The prodigal son was lost. The coin was lost. The sheep was lost. Zacchaeus was lost. Jesus is the finder, and we are the found. And there's a picture of the lost and found with the two criminals. They both have equal punishment, crucifixion. One jeers at Jesus, and the other turns to him and says, I know who you are. I acknowledge you, even though the other criminal doesn't. And Jesus, almost as his final act of his whole life, says to him and all who have been lost, today you will be with me where I am establishing my kingdom in heaven and on earth. So Jesus, even on the cross, is the finder, is the recoverer. Away from Jesus, let's see how to say it. At the foot of the cross, in the shadow of the cross, it is very difficult to say I am not findable. That Jesus is on his judgment throne, saying to one criminal who admits that Jesus is Savior, Jesus says to him, I find you. At the foot of the cross, our tendencies to experience separation, negativity, not worthiness. It's very hard to say bad things about ourselves at the foot of the cross as he's looking at us saying, and I am offering you life with me in my kingdom. The kingdom on earth that Jesus establishes are the people who can stand at the foot of the cross and let the negativity, let the lostness dissolve. And he looks at us and says, you are now a part of my paradise. You are now a part of my kingdom. You are now saved. Reconciled is the word that Paul uses in the second letter, or first letter of Colossians. So it's the jeering and cheering. It's the acknowledging and disallowing that we celebrate today. Is Jesus not king in a dominating sense, but king in a serving sense? That David served the people of God. David was a servant of God. And Jesus is, and he says it of himself, I have come not to be served. Even on the cross, I am serving. And you've got to let me serve you. You've got to let me comfort you. You've got to let me nourish you according to where you are most fragile. So we stand at the foot of the throne of Christ on the cross and letting him encourage us in the Eucharist and in the reception of the Eucharist. He is saying the same thing from the cross that he's saying to us in extending his body to us. I give myself to you, and I give you to you. My service is not just eternal, it is now I free you from any confinement that you place on yourself. And so the criminal could not let Jesus, one criminal could not let Jesus be Savior, be King, reconciler. No. He mocked him. Jesus, Luke's gospel especially, the jeerers and the elders and the finger pointers, they're saying, if you are the Son of God, if you are the Savior, then save yourself. If. And Jesus is standing there saying, I am. I'm not just in the subjunctive, if the possible. I am the real. And I serve you if you let me. And the criminal who is going to paradise with Jesus, he let him, save him, encourage him. So he was at the side of the cross. We are at the foot of the cross, receiving his body again, his nourishment, and our worthiness. We let him be king so that we can let him serve us, so that we can be who he says we are.